Johnson,
Here.
Miller, Durst,
Here.
Schnapp,
Here.
Luganbull,
Here.
Chief Anderson,
I'm here.
Deputy Chief Dostalek.
Yep, here.
Okay.
Did somebody just come on? I guess not. Thought I
Got
heard.
Chad's in there.
Okay, thank you. We have a quorum. Was there any public comment?
Nope.
No? Okay. Let's go on. Review and approval of the meeting minutes from January 21st. Are there any comments, corrections? Hearing none, how about a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve them.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And anybody opposed? Hearing none, the minutes from January 21st are approved. Well, let's cruise right into the chief's report. Patrick?
Pull this up. So it looks like I think it's on the correct screen. This should have all gotten emailed out to everybody. So here's the report. We only got 1 month to report. We just got January down. You see the number there was down 8%, but we see remember we started off 2020 with an insane increase in calls. So we were still just under that 300 calls, which is a pretty busy number for us. So even though it's down 8%, 2020 was, I'm going to call 326 calls an anomaly. That's probably, I think, going back historically, you can see just the numbers sitting there. That's the most calls we've ever had in 1 month. So though we're down 8%, we still actually, we're pretty good for the month. You can see our Narcan and CAR 17 responses were actually, it was a pretty busy month for us. So we were out and about. The other numbers all look very par. Fitchburg tended to pick their part of things up a little bit. You can see 66% of the calls. Normally that's right around 62%. Our fractal times are right where they should be for training this month. Actually, I've had a busy couple of weeks. I'm not entirely sure I don't know if you managed to grab what consortium training was this month. Internally, we're doing our annual January, February training for HIPAA compliance. So we have to do an annual compliance video every year. We do it video. The county actually does a good one for us. So we just share that with our crews. And then was a review of physical restraints. So we have kind of a chemical, and we've always had a protocol for physical restraints, but just bringing that back to the kind of the forefront of making sure our crews are very, knowing what that training is of how to de-escalate situations before we have to move into physical and chemical restraint. So that was our training for the month that we're working on with our learning management system. As far as community events, I don't have anything listed there, but it's at the tail end of my report where I'll bring it up here. So we partnered with, not partnered with, they asked us, ProMega is running a COVID clinic. So they've adopted the City of Madison Police Department. That's how most of the vaccination clinics are working. That there's pharmacies in area, hospitals, healthcare systems, other places that are essentially adopting a lot of agencies and assisting them with vaccinating their personnel. So ProMega, Dr. Anderson, who is I think he's the chief medical officer there. He's actually also works very closely with the City of Madison Police Department and their tactical team, and the City of Madison Fire Department, their tactical team. So it's kind of a no-brainer to adopt them, and they've been working in vaccinating the Madison Police Department. Part of the requirements is you have to actually have the ability to treat an adverse reaction. So made some connections there through the City of Fitchburg, and Mike Zimmerman through Economic Development helped connect us. And we've actually been sending a crew 2 days a week for this month and into March to provide support for their COVID vaccine clinic. My understanding is their intent is once they get through Madison Fire, they've already started working through their own personnel, and then their intent is to actually open it up to the public. So that may be actually an ongoing partnership with us to provide that support. So again, 2 days a week we've been out there. Nothing else really going on. Kind of eye on the horizon and asking. Sounds like people are waiting to get back out and open some stuff up. So we may see some more events start to creep in here. No median numbers to share with you because it's the first of the month. But there's our calls by day and day of the week. They're pretty par for what we've been to. Usual sick person and falls flopping back and forth. And now with COVID out there, otherwise it had been falls. Most of our COVID complaints coming in as actually breathing problems. So it's sick person and breathing problems. That's why that's our top 3 there. Just due to the weather, you can see traffic incidents actually hit pretty high on that top 10 list as well. Usual stuff by the stations. We're seeing that busiest station be number 2, but Verona's been picking stuff up. We had a busier end of the month there, so that's where our receivables are, absolutely where they should be. As far as our checking or our finances go, we've got all of our checks from our municipalities, so you can see that's why we've got that larger number there sitting in our money market and our checking account. As a reminder, so we have $250,000 in our checking account. That is without going too deep. $250,000. Essentially, it's borrowed to other banks, and then the money is borrowed back to keep that all FDIC insured. So we always have $250,000 sitting in that checking account as long as we have $250,000. The remaining of that money actually crosses over into a money market account that earns a little bit of a better interest rate. Oak Bank then just moves that money back and forth daily to always keep $250,000 in that checking account and insured, and the rest of it is in there to earn a better interest rate. The savings account, that is a combination of our donations and our FAP funds. We still have, I'm trying to think, the reason it's so high is you'll see the assigned funds that are down there below. We still have that money that Epic gave us to offset the price of the ambulance and the hybrid module. That's why that savings account is so high. There's grant money in there. CD is sitting there at 160, should be 106, not 160. It actually sits there unchanged. And then there's our WISC funds. That's the post-retirement healthcare funds. Our unassigned fund, our assigned balance funds actually remain there unchanged. And then there's our post-retirement healthcare, the $218,000 for post-retirement healthcare, the $24,000 for labor negotiations. Something to put on our horizon is 2022 will be a contract negotiations year for the contract that expires next year or the following year. No new donations. We haven't ever hired anybody in February, so we don't actually have any anniversaries this month. And I don't think I had Middleton's numbers in there last month when we met. So Middleton ended up at 1898, so it's -4. The county as a whole was actually kind of hovering right here, plus or minus 5%. Any questions on that information? Otherwise, just another note there is the auditors did come on the 2nd, I think it was February 2nd. They didn't actually come. They were remote. Michelle did a phenomenal job of pulling all the stuff they needed together and had a busy day of sending lots of stuff back and forth as opposed to having to get up and ask for stuff. So a little more of a challenge to work remotely, but was able to do it. I've gotten some more information, more questions from them as they continue to plow through it this week. So some back and forth. My guess is by most of I believe they'll have the product probably done in March. And usually we get that paper copy in April. So that is in progress and should be done for us. As far as let me pull up the financial report. So this is our in-house budget. Currently where we're set, again, we're only a month into it, 8.5% of our month into it. 6.2% of our collections we're at. So we received our municipal money. No events that are occurring in there. Everything else kind of, again, that number that we want to go off is that 8.5%. We're sitting right there as far as our wages of 8.5%. Really been good. Have had a overall healthy population with our staff, so haven't had to dive into that unscheduled overtime super deep. Always the red flag that pops up is that health and dental insurance. That's always weird for the first month of the year because of January's premiums get paid in December. So then it ends up getting put in December, so we see it paid in December, but then it actually gets rolled into the January because it's actually a 2021 expenditure. And then at the end of the year, it actually all balances back out. But that's why you see that's why we have accountants, right? Because that's what they do. But that's why you see it being twice as much as it should be. Similarly with the sick time over cap, that gets paid out in 2 chunks in the year. So January is when we pay. December 31st, anybody over the cap, the sick time cap gets paid out. It gets paid out in January. So that pot will not change now until we hit the end of the year, in which case then we'll pay out the second half of those people who are overtime. So though it says 28% of that is gone, it's not going to move from 28% for the next 11 months. Breaking things already, so we're a little high in our oil already. Oil changes, but those get spread out over the course of the year. Similarly, postage, right? We just bought a bunch of stamps. That's why that's a lot higher. You'll see the money we pay to the city of Verona for the copy machine, our rent, furnishings, which includes like paper towels, toilet paper stuff, all that, because we have our administrative officers, those have been paid. Radio maintenance, I'm trying to remember why that was so high. I actually had a note written there.
You spent a lot of money on the radios this month. Is that to do with it?
Yeah, 71%. That's probably as a typo, because I mean there shouldn't be $24,000. It should just, my guess is that's 2,400. I know we have received our radios for the new ambulance already, but those should be CIP purchases. So I'll go back and dig in that one. I know the safety equipment line is already really high. We did the PAPR hoods, so the respirator hoods. We did actually have to get the ones we originally purchased. They had holes in them, essentially. So they were great because they blew air out. They created a positive pressure environment for our crew. But the hoods we originally got with our purchase actually had holes in them, which are great for a positive pressure environment for, again, our crew. But actually any exhalation of our crew was not getting filtered out and actually going into the ambulance and spreading our COVID all over to the patients. That was an oops, right? So we actually were able to get some filtered hoods, which protect both us and the patient. So that's why I put that money in the safety equipment line item, because I think that's probably the best place to put it. I mean, I think over the course of the year, that money's going to just balance out from somewhere else. But it was a need, and actually had to get some different sizes in there as well. So that's kind of why the big flags you're going to see there. Same thing with the property insurance. We pay that quarterly, so that's why you see that at 23% already. So overall expenses are at 9%. At 8.5% of the year. So we're actually sitting pretty good with our finances. Any questions on that? All right, that's what I got for a chief's report.
Okay, well, thank you.
I have a question. You may have mentioned this last meeting, but has everybody gotten a vaccination that wanted one in your team?
Yes, everyone who has gotten one has received both doses. We've actually started to collect that information now that the back to work guidelines have changed. The CDC released some back to work guidelines last week. Dane County finally, Madison-Dane County Public Health. We got, today was the meeting where City of Madison, or Dane County Public Health has officially adopted them. We tag along with the county directive versus public health, so they have finally published those as well. So, yeah, we're actually gathering the information about how many of our staff truly have been vaccinated, because that will change things like if you have a family member who tests positive or a family member has been exposed. If you've received the vaccination, you can actually return to work. For those who have not received the vaccination, it actually is back to that. If you have a family member, it's actually back to 14 days of quarantine. It's actually, I should say that it's 2 weeks after your second vaccination, you're actually allowed to come back to work with no restrictions. So getting that information, yeah, 14 days after your second, yeah. So I should be able to share that information, at least how much of our staff has chosen to do that.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, thank you. Chair's report, I'm assuming again, personnel finance did not meet.
No.
Let's go on to, review and approval of accounts payable checks. Were there any comments or questions about the checks?
I have
No.
one.
Oh,
Mike?
Your Motorola expenses. We
Yep.
get a bunch of new radios or something for $18,000?
So that is part of the new ambulance we'll get in June.
Okay,
So the challenge gets to be of trying to coordinate all of the parts and pieces to come all at the same time. I'm never really sure what the lead time is. Some of that stuff has 2 or 3 month lead times. So all of those radios, yes, are part of the capital improvement project.
okay.
We do, the reason we had to buy, we didn't have to buy a new mobile
Bless
for the
you.
last radio.
Yeah,
All of our mobile radios now are at the end of their life. And they're supported, but through Motorola is essentially they're
Bless
supported
you.
for the time being. I reached out to them when we got that information from them. They said, that it's 10 years past their end of life, which is, I believe this year is their last year. So we will have to replace mobile radios now in every one of our ambulances for at least the next 4 of them before we catch up into where we put a new one in 2 years ago. So it's all included in there. It's just kind of some of the stuff that gets to wait and some of them isn't. But that's what it is. And Motorola does a weird when it ships from the Motorola depot. All the stuff ships to the Madison office, and then our sales guy brings all the stuff over to me, and it sits in my office. But when it ships from the depot is when they invoice it. So that's why you actually see 4 different invoices for one order. It's kind of ridiculous that they don't just put it all in one and bill it, but that's how Motorola works. So that's the long answer to your short question, Mike.
sounds good.
I'm assuming that $9,000 ambulance, is that a payment for the new ambulance or?
Which
I don't have it up right now, but
I'm
it says,
looking.
ambulance check, 9,000 some.
I have it here. I just wasn't going to display it up there. Let me scroll through it.
I think I saw it on your budget.
Ambulance billing.
Yeah,
Is it look something like this? The ambulance billing
yeah,
for $9,000.
yeah.
That's our monthly fee for our collection, our ambulance billing company that
Three Rivers.
we pay them a check every month. They're the one, that's the company that does our billing.
Oh. I'll do your billing.
6% of what they bill for us, or yeah, they keep 6% of what they end up billing for us. So, perfect. Any other questions?
If not,
I make a motion to approve the bills.
second?
Second?
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? If not, the checks as submitted are approved. Item number 8, review and possible action on gas B54.
Sure. As I was pulling out the agenda, I realized we kind of forgot to put this back on the agenda. We did it in January of last year, and then we didn't meet for a couple of months as we were trying to figure out what to do, and then it never made its way back on the agenda. So my understanding of this is we are supposed to be doing this every month, and all it does is takes all of those the unassigned balance accounts that we have. So we have X amount of dollars, dedicated in our defined in our operating budget for operating what we use it for operating, and then we have that reserve account. these take that money that is in that unassigned account and actually assign it to things so that I can't just decide I'm gonna go spend whatever X amount of dollars, because we actually have money designated in certain pots. So the money that you see here is, all that I did was copy this over from that monthly report that I give you. It says that this money is in these accounts and I can't use it for anything else. Is my understanding of what the Government Accounting Standards Board Statement number 54 says. So truly, all we have to do is approve the resolution every month.
Okay, Mike, a question, Patrick, a question.
Yeah.
The date of November 2019, is that correct?
So the,
On the bottom, I think the last,
Well, that's
Oh.
38.
no, that'll need to change. So that'll be, January
January 2020, right?
January 2021, yep. So, I will fix that before you sign it. I'll just keep a little pile of them for you to sign.
Okay,
But yes, you're correct, that needs to get changed.
any other comments, questions? If not, I guess we need a motion to approve?
Yep, a motion to approve resolution 2021.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve, unless nobody else was.
I was on mute. That's okay.
You can be second.
There was a second, okay,
Yes.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. The resolution 2021-01 is approved as submitted with the modification of the date. And then let's see. Item number 9, the EMS joint municipal agreement. Thank you, Patrick, for updating it.
Sure. So I just thought we'd go through it quick and hit, so there's not huge changes, there's just highlights in there. I didn't get any questions from anybody, so I'm assuming one either didn't look at it or you knew we were gonna talk about it tonight. And I'll kind of give you the lowdown of I made the comments in the side, knowing, so you could walk through what was going on through my head. This is checking all of the changes. I changed it from EMS joint municipal agreement to intergovernmental agreement, I think, just from nomenclature. That's the name of the original document from 1976, 1977. If you want to change it back, we can. It doesn't really matter. Otherwise, yeah, anything in black you see here is from the last version from 1998 that was approved, and most of it is the original stuff from 1976 when the document was first created. The biggest thing I took out of there was the officer positions. Back in 1998, we still were actually a partial volunteer service. We didn't have career service. We did have Jeannie was our office manager, but it was still dependent on volunteers. So I recall going to those meetings in the early 2000s and having it. Truly, there was a treasurer role at the commission member who approved vendors and wrote checks. So we don't do that anymore. So I took that position out of there. I did talk with a couple of municipal people. One of their, I guess, questions was it required by statute or administrative rule that we have a treasurer position? I can't find that EMS districts are actually addressed, short of saying we can't tax, aren't addressed in state statute or administrative rule at all. If we wanted to build a football stadium or have our own softball, amateur baseball league, there is actually state rule that actually tells us how to establish our own amateur baseball district or stadium district. Nothing about running an EMS district. So I took treasurer out. Again, it's got to go back to municipalities and somebody with more legalese than me doing some Google searching through the Legistar. I might be able to have to throw something back in there, but I took that position out. Other things I did was edit the secretary position a little bit. We have a policy where that keeping minutes, posting, agendas, daily tasks are there. So our policy assigns it to me to assign to Jeff. So we have a policy that sends that off to Jeff, and between the two of us, we take care of it. So I just took that out of the commission's hands. We have full-time staff who should be able to manage that. As the comment says there. And the reason behind the treasurer thing is we have just grown beyond where we were 22, 21 years ago. It does say in that first one, says the EMS chief shall direct the day-to-day activities of the operations at the direction of the district. To me, I guess paying bills operationally is day-to-day operations. Someone may disagree with that. We have policies. We have some solid policies that provide what I can and cannot do. Right? We know that we can't sign a check over $5,000 must be signed by 2 people. The checks are approved every month by you. You see all of them every month. So it talks about investing in the savings account and the flex plan and moving funds back and forth. So all of that is defined in policy. It's not like we're throwing out the whole, let Patrick just go spend $3.1 million over the course of the year as he sees fit. There is oversight in place. So I took that whole section out. Under the meetings, what I did change is the under expenditures, it had only addressed capital expenditures. We also vote on operational expenditures, so I added it back. I added it in there in those 2 spots. I did not change the voting that I know has been a concern in the past. That based on a budget amendment, the concern was that if an entire municipality didn't agree with the budget, that it could still get forced through by the other 2 municipalities. That has never been the case. There actually has to be a majority of all municipalities. So it can still get hung up and have to be taken back to the drawing board if there's one municipality that doesn't agree with everybody. So that is still in there. That safety mechanism per se is still in there. I did not touch the duties of the commission other than it talks about a recommended budget for the succeeding fiscal year on or before October 1st of the calendar year. Fitchburg's is due in like April. Right, it's not quite that early, but it seems right. I think last week the timeline for the CIP process submission was approved last week at the city council. So that is due much earlier than that for all the municipalities. For the most part, I presented to you in June to hit everybody's budget cycles, which is on or before October 1st. We don't have to touch it. I just put a question mark in there if you wanted to change the dates. And there probably has to be a date in there, and we meet that date. I took out here part of the duties that I don't think probably really falls. I'm sure you all have much more things much better things to do with your time other than recruit and train an adequate number of qualified EMTs for the district. I think that kind of falls under the day-to-day operations as well. So I took that out of there. Unless anybody wants to come on in, I'd be more than happy to have you come on board during our hiring process. It is still in there. The district still hires the chief. Beyond that, I involve you, but it is up to me then to hire everybody below that. So the deputy chief would be the only person if we want to put in there that the district is involved with that. Other than at this point, you hire me and then I hire everybody else with your assistance or involvement as you want. It talks about there's still some contract stuff. That's always something. If it's a big contract, I still sign most contracts. Licenses when we get new software, I sign all of those things, but that power is still held by the commission. It's just the oversight of me. One thing I did put in here is the power of the commission. Originally, it only said hire employees. It did not include terminate. If the opportunity, hopefully it never arises, but if the opportunity arose in the disciplinary process, the grievance process, it comes to me. If it can't be resolved, it goes to then the appropriate board, the personnel of the finance board. It goes to the commission as a whole and the president of the chair of the EMS commission. So the commission actually does have the power to terminate employment. So I thought I would put that in there. One, because the termination of potentially the chief, but you were also actually potentially involved in the termination of other employees. The annual meeting, I just changed that date in there, cause it was, right, shall be held after October 13th, but just prior to October 22nd. I thought that was pretty restrictive. I'm like, how about we just have it in October? That, that kind of works to me, just to open things up. It still says we will have one every October, so that holds us to that month. But it gets moved around, and that way we don't have to essentially violate our agreement if we decide we want to have it on the 10th and not the 12th. We can still have special meetings. Operating expenses, I updated CIP. So I got what the CIP requirements are from Verona, and I got them from the city of Fitchburg, and I took them to the higher of the two. So really defining a capital expenditure for us is greater than 10,000 individually or infrequent purchases totaling 50,000 or more, regardless of the dollar amount, useful for at least 5 years. That's the definition of CIP from Fitchburg, which is the more restrictive of the two municipalities. That's why I picked that. We can play with that, whatever. There's some weird formatting stuff that happened when I put in the review in there. Years ago, I couldn't actually find the date, as we talked about GASB. I believe it's a resolution out there somewhere that talked about maintaining that 20% reserve. Anything above the 20% reserve, then it's not a, again, Patrick doesn't get to go buy a boat with Fitch-Rona on the side of it, though, that would be cool, but I don't get to go do that because we have some extra reserve funds. The resolution was that those reserved funds would be put into an assigned account at the direction. So that's what we did the last time we had an excess a few years ago, which actually that's what brought our post-retirement healthcare up to the healthy number that it's at. So now it's in the intergovernmental agreement that an excess of revenue will be reverted to an assigned fund as directed by the commission. The previous resolution, I think, actually said that money will be given back to municipalities. The municipality said, don't screw up our books. We don't want it back. Don't ask for more money, but we don't want it back, right? So we put it somewhere that will go to assist in funding the district in the long term. And when 10 employees go to retire, we're able to pay them what we owe them contractually, and I don't have to go to the municipalities and ask for money that we didn't budget for. So that is now in there. Did not touch ownership of the assets. I did not touch withdrawing from the district. No, those are potentially sensitive topics at the respective municipalities. This is common language. I think there's 4 different intergovernmental agreements I got through Dane County. This is the same language in every single one of them. So there's nothing taking us not. Essentially, all of our intergovernmental agreements looked the same. They were all drafted by Robert Bruning back in 1977. So they're all very the same. Termination of the district, again, all that stuff in there. Only other thing that's probably going to come up is the actually I think I missed it, was the how equalized value, right? How the district is funded based on equalized value. And when I talked to the 2 mayors and the town president, they had no interest in changing that, though I know it will be out there for discussion. Just talks about if nobody can agree on that budget or how the district dissolves the arbitration, that's nothing for us. The last thing I then changed in there, and I found this was actually in Deer Groves. I'm guessing this probably came in there sometime in the last 20 some years. And that's that the intergovernmental agreement is good for 10 years, right? There's language in there on how to get out already, but the intergovernmental agreement is in place for 10 years. And I just left the X amount of dates in there because we have to approve it. And can be renewed by a majority vote of all commissioners, supported by a certified copy of a resolution. So essentially in 10 years from now, you take this back to your municipalities and say, it still looks okay. They have a resolution to renew it for another 10 years and it's good. But to me, it forces us as an organization to look at this every 10 years and say, are we treating everybody fairly, doing what we should be doing? I don't know that it's controversial. It can absolutely come out. It's not in the original, it's not in the current agreement. I just think it's good practice so that 22 more years doesn't pass before this gets looked at again. Those are the only changes I made. Any issues, comments, questions, concerns, proposals?
Sure they did.
I think it made some good changes, brought it up to date without really pushing the buttons that I'm assuming are gonna get pushed when it goes to councils. Okay,
What do you see as the next steps, Patrick?
so I'm not entirely sure what the, what the next steps are. I've reached out to what I believe happens from here is I will send this document out with the red line changes. I'm gonna send it to the city admin, the mayor's board president, the city administrators, Sarah Gaska, town planner. I will include the elected official from each one of the municipalities, because you're the channel of which you're the representative of the district on behalf of your council. So I will include you on that message to them. My guess is from there it goes to legal counsel at each one of the municipalities. If there's any big changes, it probably comes back to the commission before it goes back to the councils as a whole. And then my guess is it goes to the councils for approval, is my guess is how that is. But the only one I know, my step here is to send it to the mayors, the town president, the town clerk, the city administrators, but again, make the, I'm asking, I guess, the representative officials from each one of the municipalities to be that connector. Out of courtesy for you, absolutely, you can send them to me and you're not just passing information along, but I want to make sure you're included on it as that's your role. I am more than happy, I'm guessing at some point this is going to go in front of the town board and the city councils, and obviously understand, I'm more than happy to come out there and answer questions and sit on that hot seat about why I'm proposing the changes, or why the commission is proposing the changes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
22 years.
Yeah, right. Okay, so, and there doesn't need to be necessarily any action on, well, I guess there needs to be action on these.
I guess,
I think we should have a motion that we like what we see, but it's up to the cities and the town to decide to accept it.
Sure, so probably proposing the changes to the intergovernmental agreement. Approving the proposed changes to the intergovernmental agreement and send it to the municipalities for approval.
Yeah. Sounds good. I think I
Sounds
could.
like somebody's words in somebody's mouth.
Yeah, I didn't think I sounded that good, but it sounds okay to me.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, that's good to me.
Did that sound like a first and a second, Michelle?
well, can you repeat the motion, or did you get it?
Can you spit back what you wrote down there, Michelle? You want me to try to say it again?
It was gonna be, the motion was gonna be to agree to the proposed changes to the intergovernmental agreement and send to the municipalities for agreement. Does that sound right?
Probably for review.
Close.
For review and agreement, or just review?
Review.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's gotta go, because it's gonna end up going to the legal teams or legal whoever, and I know Valerie will comb it through.
So essentially, we're saying we support the changes the way Patrick did, but it's up to the municipalities
Yep.
to make it the way they're comfortable with, because it's their agreement.
Yep.
Mhm.
I
Okay,
guess we will ultimately need a resolution at each one of the municipalities to sign the intergovernmental agreement.
so all in favor of the motion as read by Michelle, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Michelle, do you have the first and second?
Mike
Well,
and Sue, I think.
I was thinking, from what I got from it, I was thinking Durst was the first. And I was
Sue
thinking,
second, wasn't it?
yeah, Lukenbo was the second. Okay, good. That's what I got.
Okay.
Yep, sounds good. So the motion is approved. Thank you. Then we had discussion on future commission meetings, virtual versus in person.
This is Mike's topic, so I'm gonna pass it on to him.
Yeah, go for it, Mike.
Well, let's see. Schools are now open. We can have 50 people in a room as long as Patrick doesn't put cookies back by the kitchen. Then we're down to 25, because then there's food. But I think it's time to have these things in person. You can't tell me we can't sit far enough apart in the fire station room that we're in danger.
I don't know, these are pretty convenient.
I don't really like wearing a mask outside of when I have to.
And I am months away from being vaccinated, so my preference would be to continue virtually.
Yeah, I got my first vaccine, but I haven't had my second, so I would be uncomfortable coming too. Maybe in April.
Do any of you guys go shopping or set foot outside? Now, admittedly, I'm on an 800-acre farm, so I don't see many people, but I go to Farm and Fleet. I go into Miller's.
I haven't been in a store in 11 months, Mike.
Oh, my God.
I went to Walgreens to get my vaccination 2 weeks ago, and that was the first time I was inside a store. So I haven't been going in. I've been doing curbside pickup on everything. But then again, I'm old, so I gotta watch what I do.
Yes, you are old in comparison to a young guy like me. We won't mention Patrick now. He's just a spring chicken over there. But I think I'm losing this fight, but I just...
Just for a few more months there, Mike.
We can keep it on as an agenda item. How about that?
Yeah, next month again.
Sounds good.
Patrick, you're so nice.
Other business? Anybody have anything else you want to bring up?
I want to mention that, if you didn't already know, Brian Merlin's mom passed away this week. So if you know Brian or you want to reach out to Brian to express your condolences. His mom, I think, was 80 some years old, and was at a grace with Alzheimer's dementia. So I just wanted to pass that along.
No. Thanks, Jeff. Hearing none, how about a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Yay, okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 See you guys again on March 18th at 7 o'clock.